Writers, agents, and publishers, for the first time since the Gutenberg Press, find themselves lost in a maze of mystery as technology alters the shape of the publishing industry. Searching for Answers is a group of writers throwing pop culture, writing, and publishing into a crucible of clarity, passion, and humor. This group is the Right Pack. Welcome back to Right Pack Radio. This is your host, David Allen Lucas, author of science fiction and crime drama and president of St. Louis Writers Guild. With me today is...
my name is Jennifer Stolzer. I'm a children's book author and illustrator.
Brad R. Cook. I am the author of steampunk novels, amongst a lot of other stuff. Iron Horseman is out now. Check it out. And Iron Zulu is coming out in November.
I'm Melanie Claney, author of science fiction, fantasy, and nonfiction.
And today we have a very special guest with us. We have New York Times bestseller Angie Fox.
Yay!
Yay.
I write paranormal romance and paranormal mystery.
Excellent. And today we are going to be talking about paranormal romance. Is it sleeping? Is it dead? Or is it just sleeping with the dead? So paranormal romance. What is paranormal romance?
Well, it's a broad genre because romance people think of as, okay, it must be the 80s bodice rippers where it's all about the love story and the guy is a jerk and the woman loves him anyways. And if anybody's read any romances in the last 20 years, you'll realize that people have gone way beyond that. And a romance is basically a story that has a happy ending. Mm-hmm. Just like a mystery, you want to find the killer. At a romance, you want people to have problems but work it out in the end. Mm-hmm. And paranormal romance is just romance with that. Add in some vampires, werewolves, ghosts, you name it, just any kind of paranormal magical element. Wizards, yeah.
And you've got in one of your series is geriatric biker witches. I'm glad this is PG-13.
Bitcher witches.
Yeah.
Bitches.
Yeah, I do biker witches.
Wow, that was a Freudian slip. Go ahead.
I do biker witches in one series. Another series, I do the Southern Ghost Hunters. I do paranormal MASH unit type people. So they're all different kinds of things you can do with paranormal books. It's not just Twilight.
Thank God.
Thank goodness.
Yes. So, what is paranormal romance like as far as a writing industry, as far as what's happening in the industry? Or
well, it used to be it was hard to find any kind of paranormal romance, any kind of a time travel book, any kind of a character-driven story that wasn't sci-fi that had these magical elements. And I know because I would go hunt them down. And there were very few publishers doing it. Dorchester was a publisher that I loved because they were really, really supporting stories that were different. A lot of these early paranormal romances. And but it really exploded about the early 2000s. It became a really, really hot genre, and much to the joy of readers like me. I loved it. Mm-hmm. And then when Twilight hit, it exploded, which... people sit there and they kind of get on Twilight. I only read one of the books. I thought it was pretty good. And for me, though, Twilight was a gift because before that, people would say, what do you write? Who do you write? How does that work? And there was a fan base, but general public, people didn't really understand what was going on in the genre. And I would try to explain to them about the Sookie Stackhouse books, that became True Blood. But people just didn't even get it. They were like, there's no room for that kind of dialogue outside of the general, geeky book people that I love hanging out with. And then as soon as Twilight hit, and as soon as that became a big moneymaker, then all of a sudden HBO's going, how do we get our own Twilight? Oh, let's do the Sookie books. Mm-hmm. Everybody's saying, how do we get our own, this and that? And so really, that's what made the genre explode. Mm-hmm. That's what brought it out mainstream. Then everybody realized how great of a genre it is, how cool it is, how fun, how interesting the books are. And it's been fantastic. So a rising tide, in that sense, floats all boats.
Ooh, that's very true, actually. As a personal fan, I'll throw it out that yes, and I've admitted to it many times. Mm-hmm. I've actually read a ton of paranormal romance, more so than any other romances, traditional romance, bodice rippers, as we mentioned, anything like that. And I have no qualms about it. And part of the reason being that I really enjoy the idea of, I guess, a shift away from your classic romance tropes to more of the, paranormal and adventure stuff, pulling that romance along. I certainly don't mind romance. Romance is in most of my books. It's in most of the movies we watch. It's in pretty much everything. So that never bothers me. So to me, these are just good books.
I'll say every master's class I've had. In fact, I took a master's class with Bobby Smith some time ago on romance, because I suck at writing it, I'm sorry, but almost every story has a romance element. And if it don't have it, you might want to double check what you're writing.
I don't know. You can write a story without a romance in it. I was going to say I enjoy paranormal romance over others because I don't particularly like reading about mushy, relationship stuff. You're reading a paranormal romance, when they're not doing that, they're vampires. And that's kind of cool.
It's true.
That gives you something to learn about. Like, my favorite character in the Twilight series was Carlisle, like everyone else, because you wanted to know more about his life and how he became a vampire and how he got this family of vampires. And then we'd have to take a break from him for a while to do the plot, kind of. So, we've been talking a lot about just the genre and how we feel about the genre. But let's talk about how, is it dead? Is it sleeping with the dead? Go ahead.
I'll never forget, a couple of years ago, I was sitting on the couch with my husband, we were watching television at night, and a commercial came on, and it was for a breakfast bar, and I'm trying to think of the name of it, but it was this breakfast bar, but it was vampires. And the guy vampire comes down, and he's tired in the morning, but this breakfast bar cheers him up. And my husband turned to me, he goes, "Your genre just died." And the worst part was he was right. It was funny, but he was right, because I said it's gone too mainstream. Everybody and their brother's doing it, and when that happens, then people start doing it badly, or people start doing it for the money. They don't do it for the love of the genre, and I found that a lot as a reader. I'd pick up these books by authors that were jumping into the genre just because they wanted to make a quick buck, and they didn't really even get it. One of them was about a werewolf, and it had this great concept, but she spent most of the book going, "I'm a werewolf. This is so wild. I'm a werewolf." And it's like, no, that's the price of entry. As a reader, I want to know what you're going to do, how you're going to save the world, what's going on, whose pack's attacking your pack, what's going on, all the politics. None of that. And so when you get to that point, and True Blood had been out for a while, and so everybody was following, everybody's wanting. And, it's good for a while. My book was talked about being optioned for a while because people were actively going to agents going, "What do you have that's paranormal that's similar enough to True Blood, but that's not it?" And they were like, "Biker witches." Okay, that's kind of different, the market got crowded, and it really, sales started dipping about 2 years ago, about the time when my husband started going, "Hey, your genre's dead." He was right. So you should always listen to my husband for stock tips. Because, and so it really, really cooled off. And there were some writers that were in denial for a while, but I was like, nope, this is, it started with editors not putting the money into promotion for books. So people's sales were slipping, and they couldn't figure out why. Well, if you're not on an end cap, you're just not going to get that cash. You're gonna see a percentage drop. And so paranormal romance writers and readers have had to adjust a little bit. And if you want to talk about it, we can. But
most certainly.
I felt I'm talking too much.
No. God, no.
You're the special guest.
Oh, okay.
You're a special guest, and you're the expert in this field. So
okay,
anybody at this table, anyway.
You're going to give us all ideas, and we'll talk.
Another... See, all my friends are wise. I surround myself with good people because I was at a conference right when all this was cooling off, and I talked to this editor that I'd had in the past who was with a different publishing house, wanted to meet me for lunch, and I said, "Okay, great." So I sat down to lunch with her, and she's like, "I'd love for you to write something for me." I said, "Oh, great." She's one of my favorite editors. "I'd love to write for you again." She said, "Just not paranormal."
Oh.
She said, you got this quirky voice, you got all this, I write very character-driven books. She goes, "You should write something very Southern. You write Southern anyways. You should write Southern, just everything you do, no paranormal." And and I said, I thought about it because she ended up telling me a little bit about what she could offer me, and I'm like, well, that's kind of nice. But I realized I'm just not that kind of writer. I've always been a fan of the paranormal books, like I said, even when they were hard to find. And I didn't want to go against who I am as a writer just to work with a certain editor. So I said, no, I said, I don't think it's for me, but I'll think about it, And she said, "Well, Angie, you're going to have to think harder because these are probably going to be some of the offers you start getting." But my current editor was okay with me sticking with paranormal, so that was good. but I was talking at that same conference. I was talking to a friend of mine who wrote Chick Lit. And Chick Lit is, kind of your Bridget Jones' Diary type books.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And those burned hot during Bridget Jones' Diary, and all of a sudden the bottom fell out for no reason. I think the economy soured, and people didn't care about girls who were into shoes or something.
Oh.
Something hit, it hit a wall, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And she actually got dropped in the middle of one of her books. They said, we'll pay you for it, but we don't even want to publish it.
Oh.
Wow.
The genre
Ouch.
dropped that badly. So that's a precipitous drop.
That was a full stop.
And so she grabs me. She said, is it true? She's like, I think Paranormal might be in trouble. I said, yeah, it sounds like it. She's like, that is fantastic for you. I'm so happy for you. She gives me this big hug. She's like, you're going to do so well with this. And I said, oh, please enlighten me. And she said, you know how I couldn't sell another Chick Lit book. She said, so I started writing them on my own and self-pubbing them. And she said, all my readers don't care who publishes it, if it's my publisher or if it's me.
Mm-hmm.
They just want a good book. She goes, I hired my editor, who's a New York editor, to edit it. I think she has the same cover designer. But she said, I made $1.1 million last year.
Wow.
She goes, because there's no other competition.
Yep.
Hardly any. She goes, New York's not putting out Chick Lit at all. You can't even call it Chick Lit. She goes, sometimes they call it quirky contemporary. She goes, but readers don't necessarily know that that's Chick Lit. They don't get the,
Mm-hmm.
She said, so all my readers followed me. Everybody that needed Chick Lit found me. And she's like, I make a ton. She's like, I am finally making an incredible living as a writer, doing it on my own. She goes, you just hope Paranormal dies like Chick Lit did. And it hasn't. But similar things have happened. So what's going on is that a lot of the writers who got into paranormal because it was hot have run screaming the other way.
Uh-huh.
A lot of them are writing contemporary now because that's the hot genre right now.
Yes.
And I predict that's going to bottom out in about a year. We're already seeing a slowing down of contracts. Advances are softening.
Mm-hmm.
We're already seeing that happening. And really, I just went to a writers' conference this summer, and everybody you talk to is writing contemporary. And I don't think there's the market to sustain every single person,
No.
That you talk to at the bar that night writing contemporary.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I am. But then again, they could do well if, again, market downturns don't mean you're not going to make it as a writer. They just mean you have to change your strategy.
Now, I have a question. You're an established author.
Mm-hmm.
You're on you've had books on the New York Times bestseller list. You have a fan base, basically. So, if you self-publish a book, your fans are going to find you.
Yes.
If you're a new author, I know of a few cases, but other than the exception, can a new author be successful? Maybe not as successful as you, but, successful with a book with starting out.
I know new authors that are more successful than me.
Okay.
They might not have letters, but they're selling more. And the key to that really is to be prolific, to know your market, and to know who you are as a writer. Yeah, that's another great thing I've met with the downfall of New York. Not downfall of New York, but the downturn in New York not buying as many paranormals. I've started self-pubbing on my own, my paranormals, and it's been a great way for me to meet other authors that are indie first. Because sometimes you kind of get caught in your own little circles of who your publishers hang. Okay, we're all going here tonight. And a lot of my friends now are indie first people that I've met. Sitting around the bar, at the writer conferences, chit chatting, and how they've done it is they know who they are as writers. I've got a friend. Supposedly, you can't sell a vampire right now. She loves vampires. She writes vampires. She does well because she loves it. I've got another friend that writes this whole series of pack werewolf things. They both started out indie, and what they did is they're prolific enough that they will write at least 4 books a year.
Wow.
So they
impressive.
Well, what they've done though, and that's all they do.
Yeah.
I mean, for the first year, because they're working another job until they make enough money to quit, is that they both decided this is what. And not only just them, but everyone I've talked to that has pulled this off, they've decided I'm going to hit this running. So they'll publish a book, and it won't do much because people don't know them. So they publish another book.
Yep.
And it doesn't do much. And they publish another book. Then they put that first book free. It's kind of like entry drug,
Yeah.
Have a little bit, have a read. I do that with my series, my Demon Slayer series. The first book is free because that way I figure if you like it, great. You'll buy the rest of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I'm writing a new series, this Ghost Hunters, that I'm doing on my own, that I wouldn't sell to my publisher because I didn't want it to be completely paranormal romance or completely mystery. And again, you could do, readers love different mashups, you know. But the first thing my big plan is, as soon as I get a few more books in, first one goes free, because that's a huge, huge market driver as an indie. You can really make a big difference. You can get people into your series and people looking for your next books. And then being very clear about when your next book is coming out. So these people said, okay, I've got 3 out. I'm making the first one free. I'm going to make it very clear 4 is coming out on this date.
Yep.
And I will bring it out. And then pretty soon they have people blowing through their series. And then when you've got enough of a backlist, people are talking about you. They also just bought your last 3 books pretty quick. So now you can afford to write full time. And I'm not a fast writer. I look at them and go, wow, I'm writing... I wrote 3 books this year, and that was
That's
enough.
still impressive to me.
That was a lot for me. You know, that was a lot for me. But these people are writing 4. But for them, they're saying this is what it's going to take for me to really break in. And then one of the things that you can also do is go to these writer conferences and meet some of the more, I shouldn't say established authors, but people that do have audiences. Because again, I'm sitting around the bar with these people. I'm impressed. You know, sometimes I've read their books because I'm a huge fan of the genre. And again, I want to know what's new. And I got to talking with a couple of them, and they were like, well, we'd like to... We should cross our audiences, because I have a lot of people that buy New York books that are buying my books because I'm indie. They have a lot of people that are fans of indie authors because they price a little bit lower. You know, my readers are more used to a different price point. So we put together an anthology where it was 3 of them and 3 of us.
Ooh.
And we did a 6-book, all of our first. We didn't write new books for it, but it was all of our first books.
Okay.
And put it out together. And then cross-marketed to all of our audiences, and immediately we're populating all of our also bots. So all of my readers are finding them, all their readers are finding me, and we all popped up.
That's great.
Wow.
And it's something that we can do as indie writers that you can't do, because your publisher they're going to have to do legal contracts, they're going to have to figure it all out. Your editor's kind of busy anyways.
I've noticed anthologies are almost always by the same publisher, you know.
Yeah, and that's why, because even my editor was like, what have you been doing lately? Because I had this book that came out in 2012 that popped. It was the first of a different series. And she wanted to know what's going on. And it was this. So you can do a lot of things.
When you own your own copyright,
when
basically.
you own your own books. Yeah, and you can do a lot as an indie first as well. And strict sales numbers, since they're putting out more material and everything, they are selling as much or as more as I am.
I'm going to ask you, what we call cabbage head questions. I'm going to ask you a quick cabbage head question. And then before I do have a shout out from a friend that's emailing me as we're talking. She knows that you're here. That she's not an author. She's one of your biggest fans in Ohio. For whatever reason, so she's like,
Who knows why she's in Ohio?
oh, I know why she's a fan. That's my fault.
That's cool.
So, but anyway, so quick shout out to Heather.
Hey, Heather.
Hi, Heather.
And so anyway.
I like your hair today, Heather. Gorgeous. It's always good to have a good hair day.
And she does want you to come out to Ohio someday for book signings. But what I was going to ask you is, what's the difference between paranormal romance and, say, horror that has a romance in it? Take Dracula. Just throw out an example. Or, if we want to go TV show, take the old, not the Johnny Depp version, but the old version of Dark Shadows. It's
however they want to shelve you, really.
Okay.
A lot of times. I've been shelved in horror, I've been shelved in mystery, I've been shelved in paranormal romance. You know, it depends on where they put you.
That's the advantage of Amazon. You can be in all 3 shelves.
That's true.
Yeah, well, but that's the thing. It's like, you know, it's how someone else chooses to define the book, which is really hard. You know, I think a lot of paranormal romance borders on horror.
This is one of the reasons I like it.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. You know, well, a lot of times, like if a guy is saying, "Who do I read?" I recommend J.R. Ward as a good starter author in paranormal romance, because there's a lot of horror elements. I mean, she could easily be shelved in horror. You know, and so it really is shelving.
Okay.
But sometimes they, you know, like the series that I ended up doing on my own, a lot of times it's defined by the graphic nature of things as well. You know, if your battles are more bloody, they might put you more in horror.
Yeah.
If your sex is more sexy, they might put you in romance, but you could still have a lot of blood. So it's hard to know. That's why readers tend to go a lot on covers and blurbs.
Yeah, I'm thinking of a writer I know. I haven't actually read much of her work, but I know her, and one of her issues, and she seems to sell a lot of her books, hand-selling them, is she doesn't actually fit well into a genre because her books are very violent, but also have erotica in it, so it just it doesn't fit very nicely into either genre.
Yeah, and that's one of the great things about breaking down barriers with ebooks, because a reader's not necessarily having to go to a certain section in a bookstore. I have about 35% right now male readership, and I think a lot of that is because I've had publishers who have always bought they call them the towers. When you walk into a bookstore, it's the big little big little what am I saying? The tall shelf.
Yep.
And
in the center.
In the center, right? So that's all bought space, by the way. All those tables and everything, for people, at home. That's not just because the bookstore likes you. Your publisher bought that.
Yeah.
So people walk in, they see it, they see the cover, they see Demon Slayers and Biker Witches, and they buy it. And then later, 5 books later, they find out they're reading a romance. Because there's a love story, but there's also, lots of spells and this and that. So, is that guy going to think that he needs to walk back to the romance section? Probably not.
He can always claim to be buying it for his girlfriend.
No, ebooks, this is why ebooks are wonderful, because in buying the book, I have no problems, but also in reading it, sitting there wherever I'm sitting, I don't have some crazy cover for the whole world to see.
Yeah.
It's an e-reader, which is really nice. So I can read all kinds of books that have, covers that are. I really have no problems with the covers because I really don't care. But I'm sure some people out there don't want the hair-flowing model on the front cover as they're reading. Some guys, at least.
Well, that goes back to our second episode, first season.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Wow, talk about plugging here, but brown bagging books.
Yep.
Do people have to almost put an old-fashioned cover around some books because they're afraid of what they're reading?
I understand that Chick Lit suddenly got a male audience when the e-readers came out.
Oh yeah. Well, they're good books. Again, but it is. I had a series come out, the Paranormal Romance Unit one, where the covers are very clinchy. There's people kissing it out.
Yes.
As soon as I saw the cover, I was like, oh. And I called my editor. I said, what can we do about this? She said, this is what St. Martin's wants on these covers. This is, Macmillan directive is this.
I still read them.
Oh, thanks. But it was frustrating to me because it's my darkest series. It's about a paranormal war. There's a lot of it's very angsty, and it looks just like somebody's having sex. It's not.
Yeah.
And to people that wanted the sex book are going to be really mad when they get a paranormal angsty war. And the people that want the paranormal angsty war are going to say, no, where's my where's my broody cover? But with ebooks, you don't have to worry about, because I would be embarrassed to read those in public.
Well,
even say that about my own covers,
even with the ebooks, the covers still matter. It's just you're not embarrassed by them.
Yeah,
well,
the
they matter.
The
They're just
it's
just
not
as
for
big as
the
your thumbprint.
giant audience out there in the world.
And you're looking at I think to me, and readers tell me this too, the also bots are really big, because I'll sit there and I'll have bought an author, and I tend to binge an author. I'll buy everything, and I'll find a series on book 7, and I'll just read the whole thing. And then I'm like, what else do I get? Well, then that's usually when I can look and see what else readers have also bought. And if I haven't read those, then I go. So even if the cover is unfortunate or the cover doesn't say what I think it should say, I'm thinking, well, if enough people that like that like this, let me read the summary. Oh, well, the summary looks good. Oh, well, the excerpt looks good. Okay, I can see beyond that. Whereas if I just walked into a bookstore and see the tower, I might not look that far.
I was just going to say, when you talk about your cover for the MASH, that came out, you and I were talking about your MASH series before the first book ever came out. And I looked at the cover and go, that's not what I pictured in my head. I expected seeing the old TV, somehow the old TV MASH unit converted to zombies or something with a helicopter coming in, not the love scene, but yeah.
Yeah,
but
didn't stop me from reading it, but
was the love scene.
It wasn't really a love story. So,
it was a dude with really hot tattoos, so that screams a lot off shelves.
Okay. So do you think paranormal romance right now, it's dying, to use that term. Good for you because you're doing the independent. I should say it's not dead yet.
Yeah, it's really great for me because, like I said, you can sit there and it makes you have to really watch though as an author. I mean, if you're thinking about selling, you have to change your strategy. You know, it used to be you write a paranormal series and it was such a hot genre that you're going to get some really good offers and people are going to get behind the books because they wanted paranormals. Like people want contemporary right now, they're going to get behind those books. Like people wanted YA dystopian for a while, they're going to get behind those books. But now it's like, you know, I'm talking to this editor who wants me to write something different. Now, if she ended up buying, say she ends up finding this idea that of mine irresistible and she wants to buy that, I would be hesitant to sell it to her. Because is she going to get behind that book like she would a book that she knows is in a hot market?
Right, right.
Why would I sell that book and have it potentially be buried, spine out, on release day? You know, I'd be much more likely to sell it to my editor who is already excited about me writing that. But as I looked at it, I went, am I really, though? Because this is kind of romance, it's kind of mystery, nobody's going to know what to do with it, and it's in a genre that they're thinking is really, really, they call it soft, it's a nice word for it.
Yeah. Soft.
And
Decomposing, perhaps?
Am I not better, you know, if I can't get pretty much a situation where I believe they're really going to get behind the book, why don't I just do it on my own? Because if it's just going to be in the bookstores for 6 months anyways, and then be mainly an ebook, why don't I just take 70% and own the ebook? You know?
Yeah.
So you have to really decide. Now, you could be a paranormal romance author, say you have a, say you're paranormal, somebody's listening right now who's a paranormal romance author, and they've got an offer on the table from a good publisher who's excited about the book, and says, hey, we're going to get you into stores, then they might want to sign. Because you don't, if this publisher is going to put you and give you some good visibility, you're going to be one of the only ones out there with good visibility in this genre. Sure. So that's good. And it might help build your brand. So you might have to do less work as an indie. Like I said, my indie friends that built themselves on indie, it's sweat equity. It's not glorious. Everybody's like, wow, because one of them just hit the USA Today list. Wow, how easy for you. No. Has put out at least 6 books in the last year and a half. Yeah. She's killing herself.
Wow.
But they're good books. They're professionally edited, professional cover. She's made friends with people in the genre like me who will go, hey, let's do this together, or, you know, I'll put you in, you know, I'll pimp you on my Facebook page or whatnot, because I can see them putting in the work, and you always want to help other people. People help me, and I want to help them, and you know, and they're not people that are making friends with you for the help. That's another key too. If you want to if you're starting out in the genre and you want to approach an established author, that's awesome, because we're all fans of the genre and we all want to hear. But if you're at the bar, talk about the books you read, talk about life in general, talk about, you know. Don't walk up and introduce yourself and hand over your card and then try to sell the person.
Yeah.
Please don't do that.
No.
Or get on their Facebook page, make friends with them, and then immediately put an ad for your book on somebody's Facebook page, because that'll get you blocked. I mean, that's kind of like walking up. There's some advice book, I think, out there saying to do that. Like, you know, friend an author, and then, or they somehow will change their page to make it a fan page, and all of a sudden I've liked them. And I don't know I've liked them until I get a bunch of reader mail from my readers saying, you like that person, so I bought their book and it wasn't that good, and why did you do that to me?
Ouch.
That's never going to get you a blurb in the future. Do that kind of stuff. Because it's kind of the equivalent of walking up to somebody at a conference, shaking their hand, introducing yourself, and then slapping a big bumper sticker on the other person's forehead and walking away. You're saying, I don't care about you, I don't care about the genre, I don't care about paying my dues, I want to use you for advertising. So don't do that. Just be the cool person that you are, and hang out, and eventually people are going to want to help you out because you're a cool person and you love the genre as much as they do.
I'm going to change, unless anyone else has a question. Nope.
No, go ahead.
I'm going to change directions a little bit on this talk. I know, Angie, we've had it on our radio show, the debate of pantser versus plotter versus hybrid. And if I'm wrong, if I remember right, you're a pantser. At least last time I talked to you about this, you were a pantser. You give me this look
what
like
I am.
What do you said your stories, and I know your stories are character driven because I read them. But what Tell me about how you write those characters, how you discover them inside yourself.
Give us a brief tour
A brief.
of the writing process.
Oh,
that
yeah,
is
your
Angie
entire
Fox.
writing process.
In 30 seconds or less.
Fortunate enough, this is audio and not video, because if this was video, you could have seen the look she gave me. I would have been staked into the coffin with my head chopped off just right there.
Well, it's just because, I don't think anybody really has answers, which is the hard part. I'm still learning about my process. And I was talking to a very established author at a conference in the bar. Again, you get a lot done in the bar. And I said, when is it going to get easy? When am I going to really figure this out and just going to get easy? And she's like, it will never get easy. And you know what? It gets harder. She's like, I'm on book like 50-something. And she's like, and it gets worse every time. I'm like, oh, great, thanks.
Yeah.
She's like, see, you're drinking, so that's good. I'm like, yeah, well, there you go. So I'm still figuring out my process. But what I've done usually is I sometimes have my title, and I've got my general concept, and then I write the first 3, 4, 5 chapters just to amuse myself, because it's just going to be fun and interesting, and I want to write the beginning of a book that I can't stop reading. And then as soon as I get to that point, I go, okay, I really need to figure out exactly where I developed all these threads, and I figure out what I want to do with those threads, and I come up with my ending. But I have friends that will sit there and plot the entire book out before they start, and it always turns out that way. So it really depends on how you work best. I actually just plotted out my 13th book, and I plotted the entire book.
Wow.
And it's 20-something pages long.
Oh, wow.
And I did it because one of my really good readers who reads all of my books and emails me pretty much the day after the book comes out, because she's already read it and gives me her ideas, emailed me right after one of my books came out. And she was like, I loved it, the characters, this and that. She goes, but you pulled a castle. I shouldn't say this to people I haven't read my books yet. And I said, what? And she goes, the one red herring was so red herring-ish that I knew it couldn't be it, so I knew the other person did it. And I thought, you're right. You're right. It is Castle. That's why every single Castle episode's like that. So this time I decided I'm going to write the book, and it could be one of 3 people, and I know it's one of 2 people, and I don't know who it is, and I won't know who it is until I decide who killed them in the end.
Excellent.
And then I'm going to write an alternate ending and possibly publish that maybe a month
I like that.
My editor I told my editor that. She's like, you should write an alternate ending. That'd be kind of funny. And I'm like, who does that? She goes, nobody, but you're an indie. You can do it. That's a good point.
Choose your own adventure. Who do you want to do it?
So to do that, I had to sit there and do all my layering that I would have done over several months and figure out, can I really pull this off? And so I did write that one early. So don't ever get married to your process. It can always change.
This is true.
Yes, it is.
You know.
Yeah, I've learned that one the hard way, too.
Well, people, you teach a workshop and they say, how do I do it? And it's like, I remember being in that boat, and I feel for you, because I remember that, because they're like, tell me how to do it, and I will do it. Tell me, and you're like, well, you got to figure it out on your own, and you really do.
Yeah, well, it's paint by numbers. Anybody could do it.
Yeah.
Fortunate if it's not.
I have a question, a different topic. We've talked a little bit about chick lit. We've talked about contemporary, which you think is probably going to go soft next. What are others that you're noticing seem to be becoming more popular? Basically, it seems like there's a boom-bust cycle. What's next on the boom-bust cycle that you see?
What should we write next?
What should we jump out of? No, please. No.
Or
No.
what should... Yeah, or...
We're joking.
Or what should it... Let's see. If I have a book in this genre ready to go, it's like, maybe I should do it now before it gets super hot,
It's hard to know. It really is hard to know. Historicals are on their way up. They've been up for a while, though. But historicals can get narrow. A lot of times the Regencies sell better. Westerns are starting to sell real well.
Some time periods are way overdone right now in historical.
Yeah.
I'll say.
So if you're writing Roman, please reconsider.
Really?
Roman's really bad. Regency is really bad. There are a few others that just have a real saturation.
Victorian's probably
Civil
close to...
War,
Yeah.
World War II.
It's funny, you said one that's on its way back, if I heard you right, Westerns.
Yes.
And that for, I don't know how long, if you walked into a bookstore, you maybe had one shelf dedicated to all the Westerns, and now it's starting to finally grow again. Which used to be, that was the biggest genre.
Randisi's making a huge living practically on Nothing but westerns.
Yeah,
right
that's
there.
Robert Rindisi for those who don't
Yes.
know who we're talking
Okay.
about.
Yes, Robert.
And westerns with other elements too, which are fun. You know, I'm a huge reader, so I've been reading westerns with contemporary spin. I've been reading historical westerns. I've been reading futuristic westerns. You know, everybody's doing erotic westerns. You know, those are fun. Don't knock it.
No,
No, we're not
never.
knocking, just amused by it.
Yeah, no, I
Why
mean,
not? Yeah.
well, that's another thing. See, again, 50 Shades, people rip it. But I used to sit there and say, oh, I read erotic, because I read pretty much everything except I can't really get into inspirational lately, but everything. And I would sit there and, as a matter of fact, at dinner conversations with, you know, people and say, oh, yeah, well, I read erotic, I read this. People be always shocked. Oh, erotic. Oh, but you go to church and you're like, you know, they're shocked that Angie Fox would read an erotic. And now everybody goes, oh, like 50 Shades. And, you know, so again, it brings it back into to where people that are non-readers can digest what actually, you know.
Well, I'm going to throw my own genre under the bus here. Because I was
boom.
super happy that steampunk was on the rise and appearing in all these Hollywood movies. We just got a show on TV called Steampunked that's like a weird game show
Yeah, I've
slash
seen
building
advertisements for
steampunk
that.
and making clothes and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's interesting,
It's dead.
but it screams jump the shark. So that's my only fear. But hey,
This
I'm
is the
already in
vampire
genre.
breakfast bar?
That's what I was just thinking. I'm like,
Yeah.
so there's a steampunk breakfast bar commercial.
Exactly.
And then you're,
Well, that's just it. There was a Heineken commercial where they had the steampunk guy who couldn't make the drink in time, or maybe it was a vodka commercial or something like that.
there's your shark.
Yeah, so it's definitely jumping, but I'm already in the water, so
It's all right.
I'm there. I'm good. I'm happy.
Again, that actually can really help you do well.
Well, and
You
all
know,
things are
if
cyclical.
you love the
so,
genre.
Yeah.
you know, even though dystopian might not be the hottest thing in town right now, or vampires, or you know, ghosts, or whatever, it will come back. Westerns prove that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I remember. I mean, I've been through things that have been dead a couple times.
Oh yeah.
Historicals have been dead several times since I've been in the business. And I've only been writing for maybe, 10, 12 years. And, because when I got into it, everybody was depressed that historicals were dead. And then they came back, and then they died, and now they came back. And it's just,
Yeah.
The only reason
Memoirs and biographies
paranormals
are the same
haven't
thing.
come back from the dead yet is because they were never alive to begin with before. They were never the big thing. So they'll get their second life. I'm not worried about it.
So your advice is write what you love, but the market determines how you have to market your book.
Exactly. And what kind of contracts you should accept and how you should manage your career. I mean, you have to know what's going on in the market just so you know your place in it and how you can do best by your books. But that doesn't define who you are and who you write
So,
or how you write.
if assuming that I don't know anything about managing my market, where do I go to learn this essential information so that I can become a wary writer?
Or where
Well,
did you start off at?
a great place is to join whatever trade organization, like the Writers Guild is great for that. If you write historicals, join the historical writers. If you write mysteries, mystery writers. Your local. I like RWA is a great overall because there are a lot of writers in there that write all different kinds of things.
Now, I had a question about our Romance Writers of America. Sorry, just using the acronym. If you don't have, you might have romantic elements in your book, but you don't actually have, you're not a romance writer at all, or maybe even your books tend to shy away from romantic relationships. Would it still be useful to join that community?
It depends on what your local chapter's like.
Okay.
And how much money you have for dues?
Not too.
Dave and I have attended
right now,
several Mora meetings.
everything is cyclical. Right now, they're cracking down against non-romance writers in Romance Writers of America. I think it's a huge mistake, and I think they're going to go right back in a couple of years. But right now, they even changed their awards to where they took out the romantic elements category, and they have to they judge you based on your romance, like the whole romance structure inside the book. And I was nominated for Rita, which is their highest award, in 2011 and 2000. No, wait. Last year's 12 and 13. Sorry, 2012 and 13. And the 2014 Ritas, I was disqualified because my book was not romantic enough.
What?
Wow.
Scoff.
So same writer,
Scoff and
same
scoff.
writers, nomination. Oh wait, you're not romancy enough. So they are really cracking down on definitions of romance and romance writers, because mainly mine is biker witches and demon slayers and whatnot. There's a romance story, but it's not enough for them right now. Does that mean I'm going to drop out of RWA? No. And a lot of writers have. A lot of writers get mad and they drop out. That's fine. But to me, the networking and the resources are why I'm there, not because they're going to tell me if my book is romancy enough. And so that's why I stay. And again, they're going to come back around and realize that they have a problem, and it's all going to be better.
Sorry. My pet peeve with that is, according to the definition of romance, Romeo and Juliet is not a romance.
No.
It's
Like I
romantic
said,
tragedy.
Yeah.
according to their new definitions, I'm not romance when I final twice, and they're big, So I don't care. I mean, I shouldn't say I should care more, but I don't, because I'm a working writer. I don't care who needs to approve of me or not. All I need to know is what's going on in the market, how can I network with other writers, and how can I make smart career decisions. And right now they're helping me do that, so that's why I'm there.
I just joined SCBWI for the same reason. Rejoined, I should say, SCBWI.
Yeah, I need to send my dues in.
I'm going to shift this again. I'm going to talk about marketing, because I'll tell you what, Angie does some great marketing, and at least when I've seen you at conferences, you've done something which a lot of others normally don't do. And when you did it at BoucherCon 2011, if I remember the right one.
I don't know what I did. I want to know.
Okay, well, I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
And then suddenly the panelists that you were on followed you doing this.
Oh, yeah?
And that was...
Cool.
Okay, BoucherCon 2011 or any other BoucherCon, that's usually a big conference. So you're talking to a hotel conference room, at least a quarter of a hotel conference room size bunch of people. Just picture it for the radio audience.
Few hundred.
A few hundred, definitely. Maybe less, maybe up to 100, depending on the size of the room. What Angie did is she took the Accidental Demon Slayer, if I remember, I think it was your first book, Accidental Demon Slayer you did this with. And on the first 3 rows, because everybody likes to sit in the back, she wanted them to move up front. So on the first 3 rows, every chair, she put one of her books for free. Absolutely for free. And then I saw a couple other authors who I won't mention the names, but I remember who they are. They're like, open up their boxes and started doing the same thing.
Oh, okay, good.
And yeah, it was just, and I saw it again the next day at another conference. Someone else was doing it. And it was just like, hey, if you haven't read my books, guess what? You can have a free copy of up to a limit. Yeah,
well, as much as you can afford. But that's
Yeah.
the thing. It's like these are, because a lot of authors and people that attend these conferences, that are writers, are readers too. I mean, we all read a lot. So, that's your audience too. Those are people that want to hear what you have to say. And a lot of times they're not going to remember, at least I have a really bad memory. I don't always remember who I saw speak sometimes. I know what they look like. I know what kind of books they write. I don't remember them. So this way they're going to remember you. And then if they like you, great. If they don't, this is a book lover who's probably not going to trash your book. They're probably going to hand it to their friend.
Right.
Now, if you can't afford to do that, I could imagine doing bookmarks with a link to your free ebook.
Or first chapter.
Yeah.
First chapter
booklets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Free samples. I mean, it's, look at Costco. They, I bought lots of stuff there that I didn't plan on buying because it's like, oh, that's very tasty. I'll have some of that. So yeah, it works the same with books.
What are some of the ways, especially your independent books, what are some ways you get it out there?
Really, your best advertising is writing the next book. I mean, quite frankly, that's one of the great things that I've learned with indie publishing is what works and what doesn't. I used to, every time I had a book come out, because New York, you can't see your numbers right away. You've got to wait 6 months. And your editor will go, we like the numbers.
Yes.
Not even with New York. I have a small press, and
Okay.
I only get to find out twice a year.
Yeah, or if you're in
Even if I call up and
negotiations, they're
ask,
like,
they
they
can't
won't
give me
even
an answer.
Oh, no, and they won't even tell you. Like, a lot of times I would be up at negotiations right when my book was coming out, and I'd be like, how's it going? And they're like, they don't want to tell you that you're doing well. You can see your rankings, you know you're doing well, but they're negotiating. They're sort of like, well, we don't really know. Like, yeah, you just can't figure this out, can you? So it was hard to choose, like, where to put your promotion because you don't know what's working or not. And as a former advertising person, that drove me a little bit crazy because we always had feedback, and I never had feedback. But there were certain places where you had to buy your ads. Online and print. Got to buy these ads. Everybody did it. This is what you did. And it would be $1,500 for all these different ads when you had a book release. But that's what you did. That was that was how it worked, and this is how everybody, and it worked, and that's what you did. And then I did it on my first indie book. And this was one of my New York books that my publisher had gone under. I was with Dorchester, and when they went under, I had taken my book back because I saw them going under, and I didn't want to lose my book in bankruptcy court. And so I put it out on my own. But it was the same cover. Basically my cover artist sold me the cover. It was already edited by my New York editor. I put it out on my own. I ran those ads, and I was like, yes! And my book sold exactly the same as it did with my publisher, only I realized that I got no bump from all of those ads. Because that's what you do, right? Yeah, wait, it didn't work. Oh, well, it's just, what was the response to that? Oh, well, it's just name recognition, I'm like, I'll not going to pay $1,500 for name rec. I'm cheap. I'll buy books to hand out to people, but I'm not just going to pay for nebulous stuff because I can't afford that. So I learned, what sites to advertise on where I would see a bump. And so as an indie, you can sit there and really understand. And now a lot of those sites are constantly after me. They're like, we'll give you a discount. I'm thinking, no discount's worth it because I don't sell books on your site.
Right.
I know what works. And what I've seen work is I have a newsletter list that I've been gathering my entire career. If I send a newsletter out to my dedicated readers, you have to opt in. I don't sit there and give you free stuff to be on my newsletter list. It's, I see a jump with that. I see a jump with advertising on certain online sites. I see a jump when I put something on my Facebook author page. Other than that, I don't do anything. That's another great thing that I enjoy about Indie. Nobody expects me. I don't do lots of huge, because I'm a slow writer, so blogging takes a lot of my time. I do a blog if I like the blogger and we work together a lot, and they email me personally and go, hey, but I don't seek anybody out. And I've learned that really works. The next book, speaking to people who already like you, cross-marketing with other authors for other people who potentially like you, and then keep writing.
Sounds like cross-marketing is probably, as long as you're doing everything else right, sounds like a great way to expand your readership.
Oh, yeah, and it's a great way to make friends, too, because when you're working on a project with people, it's a great way to get to know them, and it's a good excuse to kind of get together after, at conference for lunch, everybody sits down and goes, okay, what's our little project going to be? It's fun. Yeah, other authors pushing other authors is a fantastic way, because everybody wants to help everybody else, and you get some authors who it kind of confounds me that they seem to think they're in competition with other writers, and they're not. I cannot possibly write enough books to satisfy a rabid reader for an entire month, much less a year.
Some of these people read books in a day, more than one book in a day.
Exactly, and so if I'm helping my readers find other writers they love, win-win. And if I'm helping with these other writers out who are talented in doing that, win-win. And if they then come back and go, hey, my readers would love you too, win-win. I mean, it's just, we all love books, and it's a great, fun thing to do.
Well, yeah.
Actually, I'm surprised our group is normally a lot more vocal than we're.
Well, we're all interested in all this news.
I know we are.
Is news? Oh, okay, good.
No.
Oh, well, let's talk about what's your current project.
I am writing the Southern Ghost Hunter mysteries, and they are, I guess, technically paranormal romance. Although it was kind of funny. I in the second book, my editor had it, and they kissed, and she was like, and it was like the second time people had kissed. She's like, no, there has to have been more action because there's all this tension, And I'm like, no, they're probably not going to do anything more than that for several more books. It's just, it's a very, very slow build. We're mainly focusing on ghosts and the supernatural and the, and so it's been fun because it's something a little bit different for me. It's very Southern, and I'm writing book 3 right now.
Very cool.
So, yeah.
Any of the local ghosty stuff inspire?
A little bit. I wanted to do something that was a little bit unexpected and very, very just kind of quirky. So I was talking to a girlfriend of mine here in town and trying to figure out what would be quirky, and we were talking about we wanted to do something with an urn. Like, I wanted her to carry an urn around. And I had no idea why. It just seemed like to be kind of fun. Like, you know, because we all have crap in our purses, and what if you had to carry this urn? So I decided it was going to be basically she's inherited her grandmother's home. She's this old southern. She loves the town. It's this old southern town. But her mother's moved away after her dad died, and her sister's kind of bumping around from college degree to college degree. And she's the only one that's really like invested in her family heritage. So she gets the house. Everybody else got money. She didn't have a ton of money, but she's got the house. She's a freelancer, you know, a graphic designer. Supposed to marry the rich boy in town kind of thing, and finds out he's a jerk and doesn't marry him. But she's getting sued for the cost of the wedding.
Oh, lovely.
That she didn't even really plan. She's kind of gave in on. So she's got to sell everything she owns. So she's selling everything, and the only thing that's not selling is this crappy old, she thinks it's a vase, that she found that her ex-boyfriend gave to her because, you know, like in the beginning, everybody, like, they buy you nice gifts, but, like, sometimes when guys take relationships for granted, you're getting, like, gas station flowers, and he gave her this old, yeah, it's an antique, but it's really just this crappy thing he found up his, and she knew, you know, but okay. So her friend's like, well, maybe you can make a nice, you know, something on the mantle for it when you sell your house tomorrow. She's got to sell her home and everything. So she goes out. She there's ashes in it though. She thinks it's dirt, so she dumps it out on her rose bushes because that's good for, you know. And she's rinsing out this thing. Well, she grounds the ghost of this 1920s gangster relative of her ex-fiance's on her property. So now he's got a vested interest in helping her not sell the property, and she's now got a ghost that follows her around. But there's a little bit left in his urn, so he can leave the property if she carries his urn with her. And he helps her see ghosts. She has no powers on her own.
Okay.
So their solution is, okay, well, there's this old buried money, and all you got to do is go into this haunted house and get it. And then that snowballs into everything else, and this murder mystery and this and that.
Well, that's all you got to do, you know.
All you got to do.
Easy peasy.
Yeah. So basically, it's this character that runs around with an urn in her purse. And now the second book, she's trying to unground him, and they're trying all these things that, you know, they found this 5th grade experiment online, the science experiment. They're trying to unground him and get the dirt back separated, and it's not working. You know, so it's
Maybe she can consecrate her rose bush so it's holy ground.
Well, but see, you don't want to kill the guy. He's not the best guy, you know.
We have a relationship with him now.
He's kind of the devil on her shoulder, but he's not the nicest guy either, you know. So now what they've ended up doing is, after a while, they were trying to separate the dirt out. It wouldn't work. So they've got this dirt that they know his ashes are in. So she has it in the trash can in her living room right now with the rose bush in it because there might be rose, you know. So she's got to explain that when people come over.
Okay.
You know, but it's the South, so people are quirky. So she, you know, and no furniture because she sold it all. So it's.
So what's the title? How do we find it on Amazon?
The first book is called Southern Spirits.
Southern Spirits.
And the second one is called The Skeleton in the Closet.
Fantastic.
Yes.
I like ghosts. I'm writing a ghost story right now.
Well, it's fun because this way she can meet all these old ghosts and new ghosts, but she can meet all these people in town that aren't alive, but they still interact. And I had actually a ghostly love story in the second book where these two
cute.
got to meet, and that kind of happened unexpectedly. I guess maybe my old romance roots are coming out.
You write what you like. That's what we've been talking about.
But again, for me, I wanted somebody to have to carry around this urn. I thought it'd be funny. So and it's really, the series is done really well. So you got to realize that you don't have to sit there and count on a genre being hot or even knowing what genre it is. Like I said, some people think this is a cozy mystery. Some people think it's horror. Some people think it's romance.
No, how can it be both a cozy and horror? That's
because it's got the everybody knows your name southernness to it, but yet it's a lot more hard hitting than your typical cozy. Because my editor actually has edited cozies. I hired a New York editor for it. Again, my cover artist doesn't. No, a lot of people don't even know that it's not with the publisher. Because I hired a New York editor, New York cover designer, and she's like, Ange, maybe you should tone down some of the scary and some of the ghostly, because there's some scary ghosty stuff in there. It's kind of funny premise, but it does get scary. She's like, maybe you should tone this down because it's not cozy. And I said, I don't care. I don't have to. I don't have to do anything.
I'm indie. I'll wait.
You know, and I get a lot of cozy readers going because I'm finding a whole new audience, and they're like, I never read that's so scary. It was awesome. I read it at night, which was a really bad idea. So again, do what you love, and right now this series is outselling my Demon Slayers 3-1, and my Demon Slayers were New York Times bestsellers.
Wow.
So it almost hit the USA Today list. It killed me because the way the week broke. I was 500 short.
Lame.
But who would have thought 5 years ago, 10 years ago, that I could write about a girl carrying an urn around and have it cross genres and have it almost at the, on my own. It's a wonderful time for writers right now.
You're inspiring me to maybe reconsider self-publishing, because I was pretty convinced that I wanted to do a New York get an agent and do the traditional route, because I thought for certain that it would be too big a job for me to take care of on my own.
It depends on what you want to do. My critique partner, she writes for Simon & Schuster, and she's wanting to dabble. She put one indie book out, but she really is more focused on her New York career because she doesn't like all of this stuff. I love having control over my covers. After having had covers that I wasn't thrilled about, now being able to sit there and talk to my exact same cover artist who's been with me my entire career and say, okay, we're going to do this, and we're going to have this girl, and it's going to be this haunted house, and it's going to be awesome, and let her take it from there. But knowing that I have the final say to me is wonderful. To her, she didn't like that. So it depends on what you like as a writer.
I really like having a book published, which seems to be the big problem right now.
And Jen is someone that, can draw her own cover.
I was going to say, typically you have a book published. Dog Park throwing it out there.
Oh, yeah, I do.
Picture book for kids.
I have a picture book published.
Very cool.
So, being the children's book author illustrator, I'm trying to sell YA, but I do picture books for my day job. So
very cool.
It's very different, and I haven't put a whole lot of time into marketing Dog Park, mostly because I did that as a career move in selling my artist services. Dog Park is available for anyone to buy on Amazon because I use CreateSpace to publish it. But it's what I bring to a client meeting to say, this is what I can give you. This is what it will look like if you go through CreateSpace. Because a lot of my clients are actual authors, and they're deciding not to do New York. They want to do it all themselves, and I said, it's free and easy. Hire me for money, and I'll help you do it.
There you go.
It's, I don't know, I feel like maybe I've been giving self-pub a little bit of a snub on my written work. Listening to how successful you've had, a time you've had at it, having done both.
Yeah, the thing is, I think it's easy to want to have somebody else handle something in New York. I've enjoyed it. I've done both. I love my New York editor. I love my I love my experience there. But it's also freeing to be able to decide. For example, I'm going to a writers' conference at the end of the month in Florida. I'm not going to write during that time. I'm going to network and enjoy myself. But I've been so many different writers' conferences where my copy edits will come down, or I will be on a schedule that I didn't choose. And here I take off. I'm taking off for Christmas. I could have had my this Southern Ghost Hunter book come out in January, and I decided, you know what? No, I'm going to take off 3 weeks at Christmas. I'm going to have fun. It's going to come out at the beginning of March.
Wonderful.
Because I can choose that. So there's a lot of freeing things about it.
Yeah, in fact, I actually will be. I'm going to DC for a whole writing thing Wednesday, and it looks like I will be still editing at that point. So, not fun. Get to spend editing in the hotel room. That's always a blast.
And my copy edits always came at Christmas. Always, because I think everybody in New York gets done with something, and then they pass it along.
Now, I will have to say the one thing that I personally find interesting about the indie thing that we've been talking about is I would love to publish 4 books a year. I'm sitting on books that don't get to publish because I have a publisher. They're going to publish 1 book a year. So for the next 2 years, I've got books coming out. Exciting. I would love the idea of being able to put out...
Gives you momentum.
Yeah, exactly. More books in a year than that. So I love that idea. I love that concept.
And here I'm going to plug for another episode of ours, but it's actually airing. Part 1 aired last week. Part 2 is airing as we're speaking right now, which is about on Stephen King's On Writing, the lessons from it.
I love that.
And he was talking about you need to get the first draft done in 3 months. Well, if you're getting the first draft done every 3 months, you're getting 4 books out a year eventually.
Well,
not immediately. It's build. It's building. Yeah. It's almost like a staircase.
And it's okay if you only write 3 books a year.
Yeah.
Well, if you write 5 books.
I'm writing 2 this year. I'm taking a little bit of a slower year. I'm writing 2 books, but I wrote 3 last year. But it's just it's letting people know when the next books are coming out. It's also one of the things you can do is sell your subsidiary rights. So Southern Ghost Hunters came out early this year, and like I said, it really hit a nerve with people. And so I've been able to sell. I decided I didn't want to do audio on my own because that's just a bear. So I sold audio rights, And I had a couple companies interested in audio rights, and I ended up selling them to Audible.
Nice.
Because they were real smart with, well, I have a short story in there that I'd actually written for this anthology that came out before the first Ghost Hunter books came out, but it fit in with my series. And they're going to produce the short story and give it as a freebie. They just paid me outright for it, and then the rest of it is, you know. So they're real smart about it. But yeah, you can. So that's a release too. So you know, it doesn't always necessarily have to be new content. But if you're partnering, then they're putting out your content as well.
Well, and actually, I hate to say it, we've actually reached the end of the hour. End of our hour. I can't talk anymore. I don't know why. I haven't been talking much.
It's so good you were here, Angie.
Talking too much.
This entire episode would have been us stumbling over our words.
At least I would have been, yes. So, Angie, before we close out, what are some ways that other authors who haven't heard about you, or people who just listen to the radio program that are not authors, they haven't heard of you, I don't know how, but what are some ways they can learn more about you or find your books besides doing Google and all that?
I go like, I don't know.
I was going to the webpage.
You know, I'm at angiefox.com. But yeah, just go on Barnes & Noble or Amazon. And like I said, Southern Spirits is the new series, if you want to pop that one up, or you know, any of them. But
Excellent.
And maybe, can't guarantee it, we can manage to get a link to your website up on our Facebook page.
Yeah.
oh, that's nice.
We could do that.
I could never
Easily.
figure out how to do that. So that's good.
Not a problem.
Yeah.
And with that, I'm going to go and close off this week's episode. And everyone out there, have a great week writing. Thank you, Angie, for joining us.
Thanks,
Thanks for
Angie.
having me.
The new theme songs for Right Pack Radio were written and performed by Meredith Tate. All copyrights remain with her. Right Pack Radio would like to thank STL Books for allowing us to record in their office. STL Books is an online bookstore specializing in new and used high-quality literature, children's books, and books written by or about St. Louis. Please visit them online at www.stlbooks.com or find their store on the Amazon.com website.